Every film with Bruce Willis is better than the one without him. Anyone who grew up in the 90s will get it. That bold grin with the receding hairline on the cover or poster signaled to a whole generation that the film was worth seeing. Nowadays his career's over, but it is always fun to remember his massive hits and how he pushed some heavyweight Hollywood filmmakers around. Like, remember the time he made $100 million for a single film? In this video, you'll find out what smart career decisions made Bruce the legend, how he became the highest paid actor from scratch, and which films otherwise destined for success were finished off by his ballsy Chad attitude. Unlike many actors, Bruce Willis started his acting path from scratch. Even more rare is that he never studied acting. He worked instead as a security guard at a nuclear power plant in Salem, a bus driver, and a waiter. Attending some acting classes? Well, who needs this crap? Willis just stormed into Hollywood, knocking at theaters and studios' doors relentlessly from the very start, until some of those poor bastards eventually gave up and offered him some small roles. With such an attitude, Willis achieved a breakthrough pretty quickly. In 1985, comedy series Moonlighting. The show was one of the most expensive TV projects back then, with each episode costing around $2 million to produce, and a full season running about $35 to $40 million. Just for the record, that's more than the budgets of, for example, Star Wars or Indiana Jones. The show's lead actress Sybil Shepherd was chosen quickly. Like the big star at the time, everyone was happy to have her on board. But as for the male lead, well, the audition was held with 3,000 actors participating. The show's creator Glenn Caron was immediately charmed by Willis, while ABC and Shepherd preferred Harley Venton for the role. Caron had to put some effort into convincing ABC that Bruce was top choice and that he had the necessary chemistry with Shepherd.
Bang, okay?
Something ABC doubted very seriously. Caron was right in a way, but maybe not quite as he imagined it. Yes, the chemistry between Willis and Shepherd was undeniable on screen, but it was likely fueled by their off-screen hatred towards each other. Shepherd was already a shining star, while Willis was just some stray Joe that the softy showrunner managed to pick from the street and adopt. At least, that's how Shepherd saw it and was additionally frustrated Venton isn't her co-star as she wanted to. So from the very beginning, Shepherd's attitude was skeptical at the very least, and things quickly got butt ugly between her and Bruce. In 1988, Die Hard happened, and Willis suddenly became even a bigger star than Shepherd. That pissed her off and made Willis really cocky, so both instantly started to figure out who's the main drama queen here. The show was supposed to run for more seasons, but production was constantly delayed. Due to Shepherd's pregnancy, due to Willis's collarbone injury, and due to one of the two constantly losing it on set. Both Willis and Shepherd blamed each other for the delays, claiming their co-star is a hysterical idiot. The truth here probably lies somewhere in the middle, as it usually happens. Moonlighting ended in 4 years, in 1989. Willis was already a major star, and intended to become even a bigger one, while Shepherd took a break from acting and never returned to her former A-list glory. It required some aligned stars to result in the Die Hard we know today. Originally, for instance, it could have been a Clint Eastwood movie, with Clint Eastwood himself in the lead. But Eastwood chose the Deadpool instead. Another one, obviously. No need to hide your chimichangas. So after that, the great search for John McClane began. The thought of listing all the actors who could have played McClane, just the thought alone causes a sparkling migraine. Like the list is too big and this video isn't infinite. But just for the record, among them were Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Richard Gere, Al Pacino, Harrison Ford, and Mel Gibson. Those are just some of the names. Awfully curious viewers can pause and check out the list of names on the screen. The most amusing part is that the vast majority of these actors straightforwardly refused to become John McClane. Just a few of them had a different story. John Travolta, for instance, wasn't against it, but that's when the studio made a face and ignored the actor. Pulp Fiction was only about to happen, and Travolta was seen as a second-hand star from long gone The Grease and Saturday Night Fever, who can only play cringy dancing teenagers. When Robert De Niro passed on the role of McClane, the producers immediately latched on to Willis, ignoring the fact that he was mostly associated with comedy after Moonlighting. The producers were so hyped that they offered Bruce $5 million for the role, instantly making him one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood at the time. And, just a reminder, that was Bruce's first major film. Yes, there was another before this one, his debut, the comedy Blind Date, and for it he got a lot as well, but much less than what he was promised in Die Hard. Throwing so much money at the pretty newbie actor caused a lot of drama in the industry. When Die Hard was released, it grossed $144 million on a budget of around 30. Some sources claim the budget was closer to 40 actually, but either way, the film was a success. And when it hit home video, it exploded like crazy, rocketing off somewhere in the direction of Beetlejuice star system. After Die Hard, Willis was quickly signed on for the sequel, now getting $7.5 million for his efforts. Bruce wasn't too fond of Die Hard 2, he found it repetitive, but the actor was charmed by the director Renny Harlin, who replaced McTiernan in this one. The second movie doubled the box office of the first Die Hard, solidifying Willis's position as a top star. During this period, Bruce also narrated "Look Who's Talking" and "Look Who's Talking Too," which was good for his comedic momentum and connecting with a younger audience. But aside from these two, things didn't go so well. In 1990, the producers of The Bonfire of the Vanities by Brian De Palma threw $5 million at Willis to make him appear in their comedy movie. Didn't help. The film was a massive flop and earned only $16 million, costing $50. And then came an even bigger disaster, Hudson Hawk. Filming this one is a brilliant story, full of on-set drama, rewrites, a frustrated director staring into the void, and the void staring back at everyone else on set. This kind of behind the scenes is exactly the stuff we like. Do you like this stuff? Well, then you know what to do. The start was pretty good. Bruce Willis and Danny Aiello were good friends and wanted to work on a film together. So when Willis found Hudson Hawk's script, Aiello was cast as Tommy immediately. Bruce Willis and Die Hard producer Joel Silver chose Michael Lehman to direct the movie because they liked his work on Heathers. This one and Meet the Applegates, the only two movies Lehman had under his belt at that point. And pretty predictably, the director quickly found himself in a sandwich position, pressed from both sides by a mighty producer and a star. Willis didn't mess around. He quickly took control over the film, and Joel Silver couldn't care less about that. He always trusted the main stars of his movies and allowed actors to improvise and make some instant changes. That strategy worked on Predator, Die Hard, and Lethal Weapon. Bruce gladly used this freedom. He rewrote everything, so much actually, that he ended up being credited as a co-writer. If director Lehman tried to intervene, Willis advised him to curb his enthusiasm and ghost off somewhere. The constant changes enlarged the budget from $42 million to almost $70, and the production dragged on, causing actor Richard E. Grant to miss out on Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Later, Grant would describe Hudson Hawk as the biggest pile of stinky crap he'd ever seen. Hudson Hawk earned a handful of Golden Raspberry nominations, including Worst Actor and Worst Screenplay. To top it all off, the movie only earned $17 million, while its budget was around $70. Director Lehman's career effectively ended right there. Later, Bruce claimed the whole problem was the way the movie was promoted. It was sold as an action comedy, but according to him, it was a pure comedy. Whether that's true or not is hard to say, although some now argue that Hudson Hawk is a seriously underrated film. What do you think, huh? Let us know in the comments. Joel Silver fully backed Willis during all these complicated events, but while shooting the next joint film, these two finally managed to flip each other off. This movie was The Last Boyscout, and it looked very promising at first. The recipe was gourmet, a screenplay by Shane Black, who had already delivered Lethal Weapon, production by Joel Silver, also from Lethal Weapon and Die Hard, direction by Tony Scott, who had previously made hits like Beverly Hills Cop 2 and Top Gun, and of course Bruce Willis, who by then needed no introduction. So the ingredients were top-notch. But the result? Well, the result was another grand sandwich situation, only this time it was Tony Scott and Shane Black stuck between Willis and Silver. Black's original script was quite dark and violent, but Bruce and the producer decided to lighten things up. They rewrote the whole damn thing, transforming the project to its core. This caused major screenwriters and directors butt hurts, but no one cared. Scott ended up directing a movie that was far from what he actually envisioned, so he tried to gracefully delta the hell away from the project. Turned out it was not an option, as Silver threatened the director to destroy his career. In the end, all Black and Scott could do was break their vocal pipes, trying to be heard by Willis and Silver. What adds a special twist to this drama is that Sony initially offered Shane Black $2 million for the Last Boyscout script, but Black chose Warner and less money simply because he wanted to relive the good old days of shooting Lethal Weapon alongside Joel Silver. At some point during filming, actor Damon Wayans was added into this grand sandwich. His character was originally more interesting, but with all the rewrites, he transformed into a typical comic relief portrayed by a Black actor, widespread stereotype at the time. Wayans' complaints were placed into the open probably never box. and his frustration built up, especially against Bruce Willis. Their shared scenes were reshot countless times. It was tough to find takes where actors didn't have "eat shit, you asshole" facial expressions. Sometimes such takes weren't found despite all efforts. With endless quarrels from all sides, the filming turned into a goat rodeo, full of chaos and anarchy. With the anarchy comes revolution, and it was even an attempt by movie extras to create one. Lots of background actors didn't get paid due to someone's screw-up, so they became rebellious. The situation escalated to the point where the real Los Angeles SWAT team had to deal with this pissed-off crowd. As soon as filming was done, Tony Scott immediately vanished and didn't participate in editing. Together, Silver and Willis patched a version that probably caused audiences at test screenings to have severe disgust seizures. Silver then quickly handed the film over to Stuart Baird, who had previously saved Tango and Cash with his magic editing skills. Silver didn't bother to inform Willis about this move, and when Bruce found out, the two had a massive fight. After that, Willis refused to work with Silver again. We personally like how all this mess was explained later by Tony Scott's assistant James Scotch-DePole. He said there was just too much alpha Chad energy and testosterone on set, so things got overheated and everything flew to craptown. The Last Boyscout was released in 1991 and made $63 million on a budget of $43. It likely earned some money through home video sales but never became a blockbuster hit. Critics panned the film, but audiences seemed to enjoy it. And nowadays, some people even say it has aged well like a good wine. Some people on the internet that nobody has seen in real life, but they definitely exist. After this disaster, Bruce Willis backed up a bit on set of Death Becomes Her in 1992. Perhaps the reason here was Robert Zemeckis. The legendary director had already made Back to the Future, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit was worshipped by the studios and wouldn't tolerate any freaking circus on set. So, Willis just humbly made a few title suggestions, none of which were seriously considered. The movie earned $150 million on a budget of $50. Result not great, not terrible. Also, the film got several awards for outstanding visual effects. Critics had issues with the overall quality of the film, but it aged really well and now is beloved by many. Willis's testosterone couldn't be held for long, though. So, on set of Striking Distance, our beloved ball smasher Bruce returned. By the way, in this one, Willis played some guy named Tom Hardy. Like, literally. According to one source, when Bruce Willis joined the film, he transformed into Orson Welles and rewrote the script. The movie's director, Rowdy Herrington, had Roadhouse under his belt by then, but still not Zemeckis. So Willis treated Herrington like a cockroach. Originally titled Three Rivers, the film was renamed into Striking Distance after Willis's rewrites made it more action-like. The reality kicked in when the movie was shown to test audiences and all the subjects went into a group coma from what they had seen. The film was sent back for reshoots and the release was delayed by 4 months. This fact made Bruce pissed to the point of being propelled by the butt thrust somewhere far, far away. So he sabotaged reshoots and at times refused to cooperate at all. For quite some time, this drama was being discussed in the media. Harrington tried to defend Willis in interviews, while Bruce gave the director verbal smacks and blamed him for the mess. However, just before the film's release, Willis did an about-face, claiming it was a decent movie and people should watch it. A few years later, he apologized to audiences, admitting the film sucked. Willis pulled the same sneaky trick with other projects, like Hudson Hawk and some Die Hard movies later. With Striking Distance, it didn't work, though. It made $24 million, costing $30. Bruce likely muttered a frustrated, "Yippee-ki-yay, and moved on, while Rowdy Herrington's directing career was brutally finished by this flop. Willis's next project was the erotic thriller Color of Night. It bombed even more spectacularly, bringing in only half of its $40 million budget, and earned the Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Film of 1994. Willis also received his share of punches for this one with the nomination for Worst Actor. However, the movie later became one of the top-selling titles in the home video market, and its erotic scenes were frequently included in various hottest of the hottest lists. Around this time, Willis was offered a role in Speed, directed by John DeBont. Many actors had already refused, but Bruce showed genuine interest in the project. And right at that moment, Quentin Tarantino appeared with a role in Pulp Fiction, which had been previously turned down by Mickey Rourke. Willis loved Reservoir Dogs and was buddies with Harvey Keitel, who pushed Bruce to accept the role of Butch. The fact that it only required 18 days of filming was likely a big bonus for Willis as well. Jan DeBont barely had time to even fart before Bruce was off to join Tarantino's cast. After that, DeBont cast Keanu Reeves instead, and as we all know now, it turned out to be a prime choice. Make a prime choice as well and subscribe to the channel. This pushes the video to a wider audience. Thanks. Maybe the sharpest viewers have noticed something at this point. The fact that aside from the Die Hard franchise, nearly all of Willis's projects were box office failures. Critics hated them too, so Bruce's career predictably began to slip slowly out of the A-list, though international audiences still considered him an ultra-star. This context makes Bruce Willis's participation in Pulp Fiction such a smart decision and a turning point not only in his career, but in the entire film industry. On one hand, Tarantino had only $5 million for actor salaries, for all of them, including Willis. On the other hand, there's an opinion that Bruce was one of the main reasons Pulp Fiction achieved such mind-blowing worldwide box office success, earning $214 million while costing $8 million. But from the third perspective, it was Pulp Fiction that resurrected Willis's star status, alongside John Travolta, who was already mentioned in this video. Tarantino's movie secured the epic win, became an instant classic, and rocketed everyone from the cast to the top of Hollywood's Olympus. After Pulp Fiction, Bruce took a chill pill for some time, and there's probably a reason for that. 4 Rooms was partially directed by Quentin Tarantino, and 12 Monkeys was a Terry Gilliam project. Bruce was itching to make some movie with Gilliam, to the point actually that he even agreed to star in 12 Monkeys for free, and was paid some ice cream money only after the movie's release. To cement his alpha dominance on set, Gilliam handed Bruce a list titled Bruce Willis Acting Cliches, and demanded the actor to never do that in his project. 12 Monkeys became a success, earning $170 million with a budget of $30 million. It seems like in 1996 the chill pill had expired, and on set of Last Man Standing, Bruce started arguing with director Walter Hill. The film ended up bombing at the box office, but neither Hill nor Willis seemed to notice it. By then, Hill was already a respected director with films like Red Heat and 48 Hours in his pocket, also producing Alien and Tales from the Crypt. So when Bruce tried to implement some changes into the script, Hill spinned the actor's opinion on his manhood and advised Willis to be occupied with something else, probably acting. After that, things cooled down a bit, so it's possible Hill had some kind of hypnotoad that affected Bruce. Perhaps Hill shared his hypnotoad with Luc Besson, because on set of The Fifth Element, Bruce didn't cause any trouble at all. In fact, he later called the shoot hilarious and full of fun, only lightly complaining about strange rags he had to wear on camera. Things heated up again in the next project, The Jackal. This time, it wasn't the director that Willis clashed with. It was his co-star, Richard Gere. These two hated each other. Things got so bad that their scenes had to be filmed separately, as if they were shooting different movies. When The Jackal was released and did fairly well at the box office, both Willis and Gere gave interviews, swearing that they'd better tolerate someone taking a dump in their cereal than ever working together again. Battle with Richard Gere pushed Bruce's fury level to incredible heights. So the next project he decided not only to complicate, but freaking eliminate it. The movie was Broadway Brawler. Disney had envisioned it as a rival to Jerry Maguire. They found a script they believed could outdo Tom Cruise's hit, and invited Bruce to take the lead role. Willis agreed and even gave the studio a significant discount on his usual fee, taking just $7 million instead of his standard $15 million at the time. There was a catch, however. In addition to being the lead actor, Bruce wanted to become a producer. Broadway Brawler was designed as a potential awards contender, so a bunch of Oscar-winning talents were brought on set. The plan was to shoot the film in 2 months and release it by the end of the year to be in time for awards season. But in just 20 days of production, Bruce Willis suddenly stopped filming. So let's explore what was on Willis's to-do list after this point. First, boot the legendary Oscar-winning actress Lee Grant out of the director's chair. Second, send her husband, also the screenwriter and producer of the project, Joseph Fury, fly to the same direction as a follow-up. Third, quickly call up dear buddy, director Dennis Dugan, who had just completed Beverly Hills Ninja, and appoint him as the new director. Fourth, inform Dugan that the shooting schedule is tight, so don't bother to read the script, just film it without many questions. Fifth, hear out Dugan, who reviewed the footage shot before he joined and declared that everything needed to be reshot, or else the result would be a Frankenstein movie. And finally, fire the whole crew and tell the studio, like, to hell with this project, I dealt it.
What the hell?
So Bruce definitely had quite a busy few days. All of this would have been fine, except that $20 million had already been spent on the production. Disney was left to clean up the mess, and there were 2 options to do it. Either sue Willis for this $20 million, or essentially make him their slave. Disney chose the latter, and Broadway Brawler was officially declared wasted. Keeping with major corpo traditions, Bruce's slavery was justified by a contract. According to this one, he was bound to star in 3 Disney movies, with no right to choose in which ones, and for fees not exceeding $10 million. If these movies were successful at the box office, he would get additional bonuses. So it's actually the Disney contract we should thank for Armageddon, The Sixth Sense, and The Kid as we know them today. Armageddon surely wasn't easy for Willis, because the director Michael Bay isn't particularly famous for babying actors on set. Bruce clearly wasn't a fan of the guy, but couldn't do much about him due to the contract and the looming threat of a multi-million-dollar fine. Only later in interviews, Bruce noted that working with Bay isn't the experience he would like to repeat. But the suffering paid off. The blockbuster collected $554 million, costing $140, though it didn't exactly age gloriously, something Bay himself has admitted in interviews. As for The Sixth Sense, well, it was mind-blowing. With a budget of $40 million, it earned $673 at the box office, making it the second highest grossing film of 1999, just behind the first episode of Star Wars. It also became one of the top-selling DVDs the next year. Bruce was initially paid only $10 million due to Disney contract, but when these numbers arrived, Willis's bonus enlarged to a ridiculous $100 million, like for one movie, a record-breaking actor salary at the time. After such a cash shower for the studio, the actor's salary for the third and final contract movie, The Kid, was increased. Ironically, the film flopped hard, but come on. More than $1 billion profits with 2 movies, I mean, who even cares anymore? So obviously the collaboration with Disney was considered a success, and Willis agreed to participate in Disney's Unbreakable. This one also did well in the box office, and some critics even consider it one of Bruce's best performances. But after these hits, some box office impotence occurred with Bruce's career for a couple of years. There were projects that we still remember today: Heart's War, The Whole Nine Yards, Lucky Number 11, 16 Blocks, Perfect Stranger, Surrogates. But most of them either bombed at the box office or made just enough to buy a cookie, maybe 2. That said, some of these films are still loved by audiences. In terms of box office success, only a few of Willis's films stood out during that period. Among them was Sin City, which we've already covered in our video about Jessica Alba. Covered pretty well, actually, so don't sleep on it if you like Sin City. Live Free or Die Hard also did decently, though it earned less than the previous movies of the franchise, even with changed age rating. Another success was Red. Funnily enough, this one we have also already mentioned in our video about Carl Urban, and also Alpha Dog, which got mixed reviews by critics and audiences, but was a modest box office success, and became a breakthrough for Ben Foster, Anton Yelchin, and Justin Timberlake. You might think, like, maybe at this point our darling Bruce stopped providing nutshots to everyone, but not really. And this time it was Kevin Smith's nuts that experienced some very serious pressure. In 2010, Smith was already known for dogma, clerks, and mimetic silence on camera. Usually the director didn't work with big Hollywood studios because of possible interference, but for the project Cop Out, he made an exception. Warner possessed one hell of a script. When the studio brought Bruce Willis on board, Smith probably got hyped to the point of hyperventilation, as Bruce was his childhood idol. By the way, Smith had already worked with Willis once on Live Free or Die Hard, where Bruce had rejected a few of Smith's ideas for the character. Kevin was okay with it, figuring Willis knew best who John McClane is. But Cop Out was another matter. It was Kevin's project, and he had a clear vision of how it should be done. Willis didn't see it that way, though, and decided to show Smith how he delivered his pissed-off messages to directors in the good old days. So Bruce started to change his lines right on the spot, and at first Smith obliged and tried to use these improvisations. Things escalated quickly when, to these improvisations, Bruce added ghosting offset unexpectedly. Some sweet insults to Smith and criticism of everything, even the choice of camera lenses. When the actor found out Kevin didn't know the technical specs of the cameras, he openly mocked him. That's when Smith had enough. He demanded Bruce to stop this sabotage and let him do his job. After that, Willis barked something like, "I'm Bruce Willis, and you're just Silent Bob, so be silent, would you please?" Eyewitnesses even claimed that Willis nearly punched Smith, but someone prevented that from happening. Later, Kevin admitted he cut almost 80% of the footage. Some of it was ruined by Bruce's behavior, and some lost any sense because Willis changed his lines or refused to film certain scenes. Bruce had a different take. He accused Smith of being unprofessional and said the director knows shit about working with actors. Willis also claimed Kevin spent most of the time smoking dope. It irritated the actor. He tried to tolerate it, but just couldn't take it anymore. Surprisingly, this wasn't a problem for Willis during the filming of Pulp Fiction. Smith described the filming of Cop Out as soul-crushing and called Willis the most unpleasant and aggressive person he'd ever worked with. What exactly pissed Bruce off remains a big mystery, but something tells us that dope had nothing to do with it. In 2012, Willis had 3 successful movies in a row, and they all were extremely different. The first was Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom, a low-budget project that did incredibly well at the box office and gave a huge boost to the newbie director's career. The second was the Expendables sequel, and the third was Looper, which performed well, making $177 million on a budget of $30. Bruce's last box office successes were the 5th part of Die Hard, G.I. Joe Retaliation, actually no idea how to properly pronounce that, and Glass in 2019. That same year, the actor also made an appearance in Edward Norton's directorial project Motherless Brooklyn, which became Bruce's last major film role. The movie flopped at the box office, but many believe this was the nasty virus that ruined the cash party. We won't dive into the numerous straight-to-video releases Willis has appeared in over the last few years, like What's the Point? This video is already long as hell, but what else to be expected while talking about legendary Bruce Willis? Even this much screen time doesn't feel enough, right? Willis is the kind of actor with the range, capable in action and comedy and in tragedy, but what really made him stand out is possessing that undeniable big dick energy. That's exactly why we love him, and what makes watching movies with him so much fun. Exactly like that, he will be remembered, a living legend who left a lasting mark on cinematic history and never compromised. Well, except probably in the face of Armageddon. Check out our videos about 2 other anti-compromise pals, Edward Norton and Jean-Claude Van Damme. See you soon!